Most people believe control announces itself loudly. They imagine it as violence, as force, as something imposed from the outside. But the system you live inside does not rely on fear alone, because you defend it. You justify it in conversations. You explain why it is necessary. You repeat its logic as if it were your own, even when it exhausts you, even when it limits you, even when it quietly drains your sense of purpose. The most effective prison is not built with walls and guards. It is built inside the mind and maintained through belief. And the most loyal guards of that prison are not politicians who write policies. They are not corporations that extract profit. And they are not institutions that enforce order. The most loyal guards are ordinary people. People who protect the system emotionally because their identity depends on it. This is not about intelligence. This is not about ignorance. This is about conditioning. The kind that slowly teaches you to equate obedience with survival. Today, we are going to explore why most people defend the system that traps them, and why freedom feels more threatening than the chains they already know. George Orwell understood this mechanism with brutal clarity. The most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history. When people forget how systems are built, they stop recognizing that those systems can be changed. Once a system defines what is normal, it no longer needs constant enforcement. People regulate themselves. They correct each other. They defend the rules socially. And eventually, they mistake obedience for virtue. Why people defend the system? The system does not survive because it is fair. It survives because it feels safe. From childhood, people are trained to absorb invisible lessons. They learn that security is more important than truth, that belonging matters more than independence, and that questioning too much leads to isolation. So when the system offers structure, a routine, a paycheck, a sense of direction, the nervous system relaxes. And when that structure is challenged, when someone refuses to play along quietly, people react with anger and defensiveness, not because the challenge is wrong, but because uncertainty feels dangerous. Most people do not defend the system because it serves them well. They defend it because their sense of self was built inside it. If the system is deeply flawed, then the sacrifices they made lose meaning. If the system is manipulative, then the years they spent conforming were not maturity. They were conditioning. That realization threatens their identity. So instead of confronting it, they rationalize. They say the system is imperfect, but necessary. They say nothing better exists. They say resistance is naive. These are not reasoned conclusions. They are emotional survival strategies. The system teaches people to confuse stability with success and submission with responsibility. Once obedience becomes a moral identity, anyone who refuses it feels like a threat. In the film V for Vendetta, there is a line that captures this dynamic clearly. People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. But the deeper truth of the story is not about fear. It is about consent. The regime does not survive because it is unstoppable. It survives because people participate in it daily. They follow the rules. They repeat the narratives. They punish dissent socially. Not because they love the system, but because imagining life without it feels overwhelming. Control works best when people believe it protects them, even as it limits them. How the system controls without force. The system does not need violence to function, because it has already shaped behavior. It rewards compliance early and punishes deviation subtly. Approval becomes safety. Disapproval becomes danger. Over time, people internalize the rules, and enforcement becomes automatic. You begin policing yourself. You begin editing your thoughts. You begin rejecting ideas before anyone else does. This is how control becomes invisible. Once people believe their thoughts are their own, the system no longer needs to argue. How to stop defending the system? Begin by observing your reactions. Notice when criticism of the system makes you uncomfortable. That discomfort is not logic. It is conditioning surfacing. Reduce your dependence on external validation. Practice silence when you feel the urge to explain yourself. Allow misunderstanding without rushing to correct it. Spend time alone without distraction. Detach your identity from system-approved roles. You are not your title. You are not your productivity. You are not your usefulness. Those labels exist to measure efficiency, not to define your worth. Choose depth over noise. The system thrives on distraction, on endless stimulation without reflection. Read slowly, think carefully, speak with intention, and accept this reality. Most people will never question the cage, and that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to remain awake within it. Because the moment you stop defending what restricts you, the system loses its strongest weapon, your consent. And that is where real freedom begins.